I woke up at around 8:45 a.m. I was pretty sure I had the alarm at 7 a.m. though. Took a shower, preparation was done, and we were ready for launch. We head to the west side of Tokyo. Along the way, we saw a semi-big shrine with some elephant statues. I thought about if it had connections with India but just finished with the thought of neat. We walked all the way to Tokyo Station. Along the way, I bought some milk at a convenience store. It was my morning breakfast. We saw bridges, buildings, and so on. The more we walked, the taller and shinier the buildings became. We arrived at Tokyo Station. I knew this before, but Simon commented how it looked really similar to Seoul Station. The only difference was that the Tokyo Station was more orange, while the Seoul Station was green. While there, we took a look at the Imperial Castle. I remembered we need a reservation in advance, so we just looked at the outskirts. There were these pools that were probably used for defensive purposes in the past. I saw a dead tanuki inside the pool. It reminded me of the eccentric family, one of the most underrated beautiful anime. I silently prayed for it to rest in peace. Before leaving, Simon took my smartphone and took the picture of the dead raccoon dog. I made no comments. We went back to Tokyo Station. I searched up the route to Shibuya. The search was correct but it showed the long way there. So I told Simon let's go this way instead, since it's faster and it's the same. But Simon said let's go the route the smartphone said, as there must be a reason why it came out like that. Even though I agreed in a way, we were 30 minutes late from the time we were actually supposed to meet Steve. So I argued let's just take the quicker route and also showed how it will definitely get to our destination. But Simon didn't budge and went the way the smartphone said. I sighed, then went to the route I knew. There was no way contacting my friend at the time as the Wi-Fi zone was somewhere else, and he waited 30 minutes already. I especially didn't had his Japanese phone number either, so I couldn't use the public phone. I took the quick route and arrived. I contacted Steve firsthand and then contacted Simon. Steve responded, Simon didn't. I remembered Simon leaving his smartphone behind at the capsule hotel as he said he'll probably not need it and it's a pain to carry around. Funny how he took a cigarette pack though. After a while, I met up with Steve. We did a bro hug. I was really glad to see him again. It's been about more than a year since I last seen him. We waited for Simon for about an hour. But truthfully I knew it was hopeless. There was an ocean of people in the station and outside. And without any way of contacting him, it was basically find a nano needle in a haystack. We checked around though. I suggested the smoking spot first, but didn't see him there. Funny thing is, Simon later tells me that he was at the smoking spot. But he only smoked on cig, so he probably left quickly. We then checked the dog statue and so on. No luck. Oh, by the way, I remember about the dog statue being erected because the dog whose owner died kept waiting for his owner even weeks. The dog eventually became popular and in his memory, the statue was created. I briefly thought only if Simon was like the dog. But no ill intentions. So after the hour, we gave up. We walked the Shibuya crossroad. The people there were swarming like zerglings. I took a picture of course. We went to a sushi restaurant. And I checked off sushi in my to-eat list in Japan. Some of them had more wasabi than I thought though. It was still good nevertheless. To my surprise, I got rather full rather quickly from the sushi. I figured I could never get full with them as they looked small, but that wasn't the case. Steve bought me some milk tea and he got some coffee tea. I said thanks of course. We walked to the Meiji Shrine. It's a shrine with a massive brown gate. The trees there were tall too. I knew about Meiji Shrine before coming here, but I found it the most impressive out of all the place I've been so far. I did some fortune shake box thing for 100 yen. It had a message about a gem is valuable but needs to be polished to meet its full potential, or something like that. I nodded at the fortune in agreement. We saw a wedding in the shrine as well. I just thought about the people who were getting married were probably rich, since they were having a wedding in a great place like this. We then went to Shibuya Park. Costed 200 yen, but I thought it was worth it. Because the park inside was like Shadow of the Colossus big. Fields, lakes, trees, bushes, gardens, it was well worth the cash. Steve hinted that he was thirsty, so I bought him some tea this time. Steve is a good guy, so it didn't matter to me much. While in the park, Steve talked about his college and so on. Apparently college in Japan sounded more tough than the ones in my country. Or that was the impression I was getting. He also talked about how he was glad to meet me, no homo, but was skeptical when he also heard that Simon was going to come too. I just laughed uneasily. We slowly went out of the park as it played the departure song that you sometimes hear at the end of school anime graduation. Steve told me that it was a European song at first and a Japanese man changed the tone of it and popularized it here. That, I didn't know about actually. The park back entrance reminded me of Animal Crossing BTW. It was all brown low roof with a clock and so on. Probably irrelevant, but that's what I felt. We walked around the west part of Tokyo some more. Then went to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. I knew building was big, but expected it to be unimpressive, as I've seen lot of buildings that was technically big, but felt small when you actually look at it. But, looks like Jinx from LOL was screwing with me, because when we arrived, this government building had mass. I loved how the buildings had multiple skywalks connected everywhere and had a very solid but futuristic feel as well. I don't think I've ever seen a more impressive building since the Hoover Dam I saw back in middle school. The air was getting cold. It was April, like your lie in April, but it felt like an autumn's cold. I remember this cold from the days I used to go trick-or-treating with my stupid friends back in middle and high school in America. Good thing I had a hoodie on. We went up the building. I remembered the overview spot of the government building was free back from my research. There was a long line. But we waited about 30 minutes and went to the top. We went on the perfect timing too. We went up around the time the sun was still up, but was sort of setting. So we saw both the daytime city and the nighttime city. I personally thought the nighttime city was more beautiful. At the observation deck, I bought some keychain souvenirs for my family and friends. A black cat with a red scarf that reminded me of Sakamoto from Nichijou but instead was a cat from the Ghibli Witch movie, the classic Grey Totoro, and a rainbow bridge keychain I got from the Gotcha machine. And I saw classic Grey Totoro because there were other colors as well. Like green, blue and so on. I took some pictures as usual then we went down. It was dark now. We walked around the place even more. We were near the Shinjuku station I believe. We saw a bunch of buildings. There was this one building I knew about from my research but kind of forgot. It was netted with white net looking design and was pretty damn tall. There was even this ball thing near it. I wondered if it was a penis joke. On the base floor, there were a lot of bookstores. We then waited at the Shinjuku station. Why you ask? Because Simon finally saw my Facebook message and asked where I was. I told him I was at Shinjuku and told him to come here if he wanted to as we were going to eat soon again. He said he'll go as fast as possible. Apparently Simon went back to the hotel and was sleeping for the whole day. Well, something told me that he probably didn't regret though as he's been talking about food being the only matter. But perhaps not at the same time again as how excited he was about coming to this station again. While waiting, we watched two high school girls, age 16 and 17 apparently street performing. They sang and played their guitar. They sang some cover songs that I didn't know of. There weren't any people stopping to watch the two girls at first, but the crowd later grew big. I assumed it was thanks to Steve and I especially since the crowd was forming on this other street performer near the two girls. The two was done performing and we just stood around waiting for Simon. One of the girl came up to us and gave us a flyer about their Twitter and such and told me something. I wasn't sure what she said but just said thank you. I asked Steve about what she was talking about, but he said he didn't hear her. After waiting forever for Simon, aka 2 hours or so, we kind of gave up and just decided to go eat ourselves first. Simon wouldn't read our messages, so that's what made us give up. He should really learn how to keep in contact. But God forgive, we ran into Simon while going to a restaurant. Simon shook my hand as he looked excited to see me again. He even said he couldn't believe how glad he is to see me again. Personally, I wasn't. We went to some restaurant which was shoved away by more restaurants with lot of salarymen in suits and drunk ones every now and then. I checked off the rice bowl with pork covered at the top out of my to-eat list and ate. Simon and Steve also got the same menu as me. It was really good. Especially since, it was like my second meal of the day. But I sort of consider it my first because sushi seem exotic snack-like. Just an opinion. After eating, we saw Steve off. Before he left, he told us we should check out the Koreatown near Shinjuku. I remember researching about it but brushed it off. But for some reason I thought it was a good idea to go there and so did Simon. We went. But we couldn't find the Koreatown. We forgot to ask Steve the name of the place and it wasn't in Korean or anything. We even asked a police officer if he know about a Koreatown near here, but he pointed at the Shinjuku subway station for us. We walked around the place for a bit, with some determination still left in us. But too bad our determination wasn't as strong as Frisk's. Hey! We gave up and took the subway back to our hotel. I really felt like I needed a shower. Felt grim. We arrived and I took the shit out of that shower. Once done, I checked my current cash once more to see how much I have left. I concluded that my spending was on track. While lying down in the capsule room, I just thought about the only thing Simon was useful for was his basic Japanese speaking skill.